All right, we're back, Gavin. How you doing?
Hey, I'm back. Thank you very much. I'm doing great, I think.
Okay, so now last week, Gavin, you and I covered the illustrious Mike Pompeo.
Mm-hmm.
He did an interview with John Stossel, who I think really did a good job.
Oh, definitely.
Overall, great interview. He's kind of a slippery dude.
Oh yeah, he's top of his game.
not super easy to read. And while we were doing it, I brought this guy up, okay, because this guy very famously testified in front of Congress. This is General James Clapper, Lieutenant General. He was the Director of National Intelligence, and well, we'll go into his testimony, but let me just say that it is extremely controversial, and many say that it kind of led into Edward Snowden. So I thought that they went well together. I also like the fact that, again, I don't want to get into politics on this channel. So last week I talked about the fact that Pompeo was actually Trump's guy. CIA director, Secretary of State, worked for Trump. Well, this guy, he was working for Obama. Okay, so it's a free for all, guys. We're not in love with the deep state, and the Director of National Intelligence, the position was created by George W. Bush, and we didn't have enough intelligence agencies, of course, at the time. Why not throw another one in there? We can have a Patriot Act. We can add another department, and we have this guy. So we're going to go into this exchange, and this is with a Senator Wyden, and let's just get into it.
Killings in the days ahead, but for today, my congratulations. Director Clapper, I want to ask you about what I asked you about a year ago. And that was the matter of surveillance, and particularly what the rules are that an intelligence agency would have to follow in order to electronically track the movements and locations of an American inside the United States. And I asked you about this a year ago.
Actually, before I get deep into it, I have to qualify something. Anytime you're dealing with Congress, there's always going to be a little bit of grandstanding going on. Notice he's reading off. I asked you a year ago, I did this and that. And some of it's legit because I kind of, do you watch this testimony a lot, Gavin?
Not really, no.
But when you do, would you, I love this. I'm going to be hitting that chat in a second. When you do, it's kind of frustrating because there is a bit of a theater going on in this situation. Now, Maggie, you're pushing a button here. There is no such thing as a deep state. It's a made-up term that is used to defame the DOJ. I'm going to say you are 100% incorrect. The problem is this. The deep state has a connotation of spooky mirrors and things like that. And you think CIA, speaking of made up terms, conspiracy theory, which is made up by the CIA and put out because of Mark Lane. The deep state is simply the bureaucracy. The deep state are the unelected officials and the higher ups who are running throughout the government. As an example, I was listening to somebody who was being interviewed by a friend of mine, Chris Lockhead, who worked in the California governor's office. And he worked for Gray Davis, I believe was the governor at the time of California. And when he was talking to all the people, they said, oh yeah, well, we're weebies. And he's like, what? And they're like, yeah, do whatever you want. Say what you want. We're weebies. He's like, what the hell are you talking? What is a weebie? He goes, we'd be still here when you're gone. And it is hard for people to get the get their head around it. But the truth is that these people are in positions and they're there for 20 years.
Mhm.
And who do you think is in charge of implementing visions that are coming down? Isn't it possible? So let's just step back. Is it not possible that somebody, again, unelected, they're hired up, they can go through the ranks, they can get appointed, different things, but these people, they're there through both, whether Democrat or the Republican, any which way you go, they're still there doing their 20 years, whatever, 30 years. These people have a ton of power. Now, Gavin, I'm speaking from the perspective of the United States. In England, do you have a deep state?
Yeah, we do. It's a lot more behind closed doors here. So whereas in the US it seems to be a bit more open or common knowledge, here there's the same things going on, exactly the same things. There are the companies and the people with power. There are politicians that do kind of deals behind doors and on the golf course and that kind of thing. It's exactly the same. It's just not as I don't know. No, it's still the same kind of level, as it were. It's just, it's not. It's something that the kind of the public tend to turn a bit of a blind eye to it. The media kind of leave it alone, and the government don't mention anything about it. And the only time it ever comes to light is in the event of a scandal that a news agent goes, "We'll run with that and blame him." So and that's when everything starts hitting the fan. So
yeah. And I'm going to say that there's just so much more population here that everything is bigger. So you're right. It's probably the same percentage of government that, is entrenched there as it is here. It's just we get a whole lot more of them.
Yeah, I've just seen that. So Able 60 has just put Yes Minister. There's a brilliant program, I think it's from the 70s or 80s, called Yes Minister. If ever you get a chance to watch it, absolutely brilliant. And it revolves around basically an English minister and 4 people who are kind of pulling his strings and telling him what to do and when and how. But it's not directly, but they influence him. So yeah.
And Maggie's pointing out that there's the lobbyists and multi-million-dollar corporations that swindle the government and doing whatever they want. Yes, but that's not technically the deep state. That's the swamp. If you're talking about here, that is the swamp, and a lot of them will influence people who are in the deep state. Absolutely. You have, for example, military industrial complex. Where do you think people retire and go? Well, they go to a think tank because they're not allowed to be hired by Raytheon or defense contractor right away. So they go work for a think tank for a while, which is like a holding pin. It's like, okay, let's go in here. Got the brain trust in here. And then, then they cycle around, and all of a sudden they're working at Raytheon. They're working at Lockheed. They're working at, all the different defense contractors, etc., or lobbyists, or all these other things. So that the swamp, yeah, absolutely. But it is a mess. And okay, so back to our senator. I gave him not even 38 seconds because I had started forward.
And you said that your lawyers were studying this, and I hope that since a year has passed, we can get some answers to these questions. So first, let me ask the question: if an intelligence agency wants to electronically track the movements and whereabouts of an American inside the United States, how much evidence do they need?
Well, first of all, let me just say, sir, that particularly in the case of NSA and CIA, there are strictures against tracking American citizens in the United States for foreign intelligence purposes, and that's what those agencies are set up to do. I think, though, when I might ask Director Mueller to speak to this, because what you're referring to is, I think, devolves into the law enforcement criminal area. So, Bob.
No, okay. There's nothing. He didn't lie.
Nope.
He didn't answer the question.
Nope.
He actually stated what the law was, which is very funny. It's the same thing we were talking about with Pompeo a little bit last week when John Sasso asked him on American soil.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at what his first part of his response was there, when he turned around, and if we simplify it, he said, there are restrictions in place to stop us doing what you've just said, which is exactly what these agencies are set up to do. And that's it. That was really what his answer was. He didn't say, we don't do it. He didn't give any examples of how and when they do it. His answer was literally a non-answer. There was an incongruent shrug while he was talking, and you got this whole conversation like this going on where he's resting his hand on his face. There's a lot of out of timing hand gestures when he's making it. They're not in time with the words he's saying, so they're not
punctuating.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm struggling tonight, Eric. Sorry.
They're punctuating. It doesn't. The rhythm isn't there.
Yeah, and you've got the raised brow look of approval going on as well. So you've got all these cluster of tells all at the same time, and then you've got a little bit of lip compression right at the very end there as well, which just shows that he is withholding something. Not that would the CIA ever withhold anything though, really?
Thank you, Jeff Ramsey, new member, and the illustrious James
Way.
Kyle.
Ooh.
Wow, thank
Hi,
you
Jim.
so much, sir. I do deeply appreciate that. Okay, so I love this because here we are. What did I say? It's a bit of theater.
Mm-hmm.
We have a bit of a grandstand and a question, and then a meandering and a pass off and no answer.
Yeah. And that was the other thing. He's deflected it right over and gone, yeah, it's possibly a criminal offence. I'll put you over to Mueller.
Let me, and I do want to hear from Director Mueller, but I'm trying to get some general principles out with respect to intelligence. And you've cited certainly some areas that are relevant. But what I'm really trying to do is get an unclassified answer to a question about what the law authorizes.
The law is, of course, as you know, is embedded in the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which was recently the amendment, and to which was recently extended for 5 years. And it places very strict strictures on the intelligence community's tracking of U.S. persons where there is a terrorism nexus. And that is overseen very strictly by both the FISA court as well as within the executive branch, both by my office and the Attorney General. So there are very strict rules about that, as you know, as we've discussed.
Okay, so we're in agreement that there are rules.
Yep. That's about as good as it gets. So, and of course, if I were to turn around to you and I said, Eric, how do you feel about people stealing donuts from a donut stand?
No, you know, in the United States, we have laws, and you have the Constitution. That's these laws are supposed to be based on, and it could be federal, and then we also have laws that are in the state.
And it's overseen and looked over.
Yeah, and then, well, we have a police department, or like it could be police, it could be FBI. We have a lot of different departments. And, as a matter of fact, Bill here is a cop, and maybe you want to talk to Bill, and he could answer a question for you.
Yep, because he's certainly not answering a question. And did you see the entire posture change when this whole thing happened again? Because again, he's not answering the question. He's trying to do the old blind them with science kind of thing, where he sits forward and says, "There are laws," and da 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 da. And wait. So again, he's not answered the question. He's not saying what he does and what he doesn't do. He's just said there are laws. Great, big wow. There are laws against lots of things, but it doesn't mean to say that people aren't doing them.
Yeah, and this is a great question, Pasha. Is the senator trying to set Clapper up? I hope so, because otherwise these questions are not worth much. Yeah, and who else? Somebody said that Ziggy shrugs. He needs to ask a direct question and request a direct answer. And I think that both of you are on track here. I think that, yes, the questions kind of suck. I dare I say, we're talking about like a 5-minute period that you're allowed to have these questions.
Yeah.
And I think it needs to be a cross-examination. And you've seen that with, for example, Rand Paul, when he's asked Fauci questions, you'll see that it's very pointed.
Mm-hmm.
Did you do ba 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 on da da da?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, there's always some sort of wiggling or whatever, but it is a little bit kind of leading it out there. And Pasha, you're right. I think he may be trying to set him up, but let's go ahead and watch along and see.
But as you know, there are some fundamental questions about the balance between security and liberty that transcend just the FISA question. So what I would like to do is see if we can get a direct answer to the question about when the intel community needs to get a warrant, for example, when a lesser amount of evidence would do, and second, the circumstances when no specific evidence is needed at all. And the FISA law does not specify whether a warrant is required. So that's the reason that I'm asking the question. I asked it a year ago.
I'd like to ask.
Okay, the question is kind of vague. Now let's talk about what's going on here, because this is something that has come up to bite us in the ass. This is the FISA court.
Mm.
And essentially, the FISA court is a bit of a star chamber. Now, are you familiar with the term star chamber, Gavin?
Nope.
Okay, a star chamber is a secret court.
Oh, okay.
Essentially. And, you know, they're all in there, star chamber, boom, and things are determined. You know, nobody can see anything in the public, whatever.
Right.
Well, the FISA court allows them to get warrants for surveillance without an actual normal court type of scenario. It's in secret.
Right.
And there's no real oversight. So what Wyman is talking about here, he's saying there's concerns that there's no oversight. You know, what's going on. You know, these things are important, and he's kind of glossing around. It's a little muddly. It's not super clear on it, but this is going to become really, really important because we had a bit of a problem with the FISA court and the whole Russiagate scandal.
Mm.
And I forgot the guy's name, but the guy who did it was Kleinsmith. There's a lawyer named Kleinsmith, and he was going after one of the Trump people. And essentially, when applying for the FISA warrant, this is an FBI lawyer. The question came up, in your work overseas, like with Russia, were you working with the CIA? You know, did you have any kind? And well, apparently, yes, he was. This lawyer changed it to say not. Literally changed the damn document. and the person, Carter Page. Oh, thank you.
Ah, there we go. Yeah,
Carter Page. Thank you. And Kleinsmith quite literally changed the wording itself to get that FISA warrant. So it's completely, utterly illegal. Now, of course, Gavin, you know what happened to Kleinsmith, right? You know that this is somebody who lied. He was working for the FBI, so the standards should be very high, right? Work for the FBI, yeah. And then he abused his power in a secret court. He is a lawyer, so he is sworn in, you know, to the Justice Department, working for the FBI. So, you know, the book was thrown at him, right? I mean, they buried him under the jail, not in it. So, do you want to know where he is now?
Probably on the donut run for the FBI, enjoying life in a corner office.
I don't know his exact position, but I know that his law license is back. He's practicing law. All is good. He had a little bit of a vacation that he wasn't able to practice law. That's it.
That was the whole.
So, no real ramifications here.
That's the beauty of knowing the right people in the right places.
Or I guess serving your masters, whomever they might be. So let's see here.
Director Mueller to help me with that question.
And
he really wants Mueller. Please, come on. No, have you met my buddy here? Come on. Let me introduce you to my buddy.
Yeah, he does not want to answer these questions at all. He's trying everything to get out of these questions. He keeps trying to get Director Mueller in to save his neck. And you don't even need to be an expert to see that he's just he doesn't want to know. He doesn't want to risk, saying the wrong thing and having it twisted. He wants to do anything he can to get out of it.
And by the way, here's the fun part about all this. This is 10 years ago, okay? 10 years ago. And then look where we've been. Mueller ran the Russiagate probe. The Carter Page thing happened with all that. It's mind-blowing how this just circles right back around. And you're like, okay, so the guy who investigated the problem, who was put in charge of it, who, by the way, found nothing, is the guy who was sitting next to the guy with the FISA and that he kept referring to.
It is a very small world in the intelligence community, especially towards the top of the pyramid, as it were. You get a lot of the same faces and names coming up a lot.
Yeah.
Mr. Director, I'm anxious to hear from Director Mueller, who I greatly respect, but I also need to hear from you with respect to the intelligence community. That's why I asked it a year ago.
As I said, Senator Wyden, in the case of CIA and NSA, who were engaged in foreign intelligence collection, that's a practice they do not engage in.
Director Mueller?
That's a practice they do not wait. Did I hear him say that that's a practice they do not engage in?
That's what he said.
Okay. Well, good. I just want to clarify.
Well, Senator, you're talking, well, let me start by saying that there's no real distinction in what we do between the criminal and the national security. If we require it in criminal side, we require national security, and we treat them the same. There is no distinction between our intelligence cases in terms of undertaking the activity you suggest and our criminal cases. That being said, in the wake of the Jones decision, which I'm sure you're familiar with, that is put some things in an area where we're waiting to see where the courts go. But obviously, they said if you were going to trespass to install a device, then that requires a warrant. The standard on that warrant is still up in the air. And consequently, to give you a more precise answer to a particular question on a particular monitoring, I would have to be more factually based and then apply the law to that particular set of facts.
Director Mueller?
Now, okay. Was he not a beacon of certainty?
Do you know what I like? This reminds me of two guys from Liverpool I interviewed a long while ago. So basically, you've got Clapper over there saying, no, we don't do that. And then you've got Mueller over here saying, and when we do that for him, we treat it the same as whether it's a criminal domestic case or an intelligence case. It's all together. And it's like, I remember these two guys I was interviewing, the ones from Liverpool, that they were accused of something, and I sat them down to talk to them. And, and the short version is the one guy looked at me and said, no, I definitely didn't do it. And the other guy looked at me and said, yeah, and I was with him when he didn't do it. And that just literally came to mind when when watching them two. It was, oh dear, you got one saying no, we never do that, and the other one saying yes, he never does that, and when we do it for him, this is how we do it. Under the same rules.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, it kind of shows you why he kept saying, you want to talk to my friend Mueller? Talk to my friend Mueller.
There is a bit, I don't know if you can get to it, it's right at the very, very end. And I'm going to bring up something Jim Pyle said earlier on when we get to this. If you can forward to like the last few seconds of Clapper's last response.
Sure.
If you can manage to get
ahead of time or go back.
It's right at the end, ahead of time. Because I think we've heard everything from him now, haven't we?
No. There's more.
Oh, is there a bit more? We'll save it then. We'll save it.
Okay, you're confusing me. Okay.
Sorry, my bad.
Mueller, you have identified the exact reason why I'm trying
We're
to
not
get
sharing
an
screen.
answer from direct.
Oh, thank you. You're supposed to let me know that ahead. No.
Give you a more precise answer to a particular question on a particular monitoring, I would have to be more factually based and then apply the law to that particular set of facts.
Director Mueller, you have identified the exact reason why I'm trying to get an answer from Director Clapper, because there's no question we are going to watch what the courts do in the days ahead. The question is, what will be the rights of Americans while that is still being fleshed out? And the fact is, FISA does not specify whether a warrant is required. And I know I'm out of time for this round. I just want you to know, Director Clapper, respectfully, I will be asking this question of you, just like we did with respect to the legal documents for targeted killings, which we finally got after 7 requests over a 2-year period, until we get an answer, because I think Americans are entitled to a direct answer to that question. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Would you like Director Mueller to respond?
I think
it would be helpful.
Madam Chair, I think the director did, and he gave a very thoughtful answer, which is that the courts are still wrestling with the various interpretations of it. I think that is a correct answer by Director Mueller, but we still have the question remaining: what are the rights of Americans as of today while the courts are wrestling with this? And that is the matter we have not gotten an answer to. I thank you. And just for you, Director Clapper, again on the surveillance front, and I hope we can do this in just a yes or no answer, because I know Senator Feinstein wants to move on. Last summer, the NSA director was at a conference, and he was asked a question about the NSA surveillance of Americans. He replied, and I quote here, "The story that we have millions or hundreds of millions of dossiers on people is completely false." The reason I'm asking the question is, having served on the committee now for a dozen years, I don't really know what a dossier is in this context. So what I wanted to see is if you could give me a yes or no answer to the question: does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
It does not.
Not wittingly.
There we
There are
go.
cases where they could inadvertently, perhaps, collect, but not wittingly.
Yep, that was the bit I was on about.
Jim,
That is going to
does
come
the
back to haunt
NSA
him.
collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
It does not.
By the way, well, let's look at Wyman's. His reaction is worth noting too.
Oh,
It
yeah.
does not.
Not wittingly. There are cases where they could inadvertently, perhaps, collect, but not wittingly.
Okay, you've got a lot of nervous
Thank you
body
very
language
much,
going on
Ms.
there,
Khan.
and
You
all
think?
sorts of things. I don't know why on earth he. I mean, I could, the body language there speaks for itself, basically. But what an awful response. If you, I don't know if you, it's probably pretty far up now, but Jim Pyle earlier, he put a comment on there, and he said, his excuses sound like a cheating spouse or something along those lines. Now, in this instance, imagine I come home to my wife and she said, "Hey, have you been sleeping with your assistant?" And I go, "Not wittingly." Do you think she's going to take that as an answer that she'd be satisfied with? This
I
is
woke up, she was next to me. I don't know what happened.
yeah, it's unbelievable. Not wittingly. So to let people know a little bit about how this all works, and I'll try and put it in its simplest form, so I'm not going to waffle on about all the different companies. But basically, you've got the likes of Booz Allen Hamilton that does a lot of the outsourced work for the likes of the NSA. There we go. His responses are in parallel with the cheating husband responding to a wife's inquiry. Imagine saying that to the wife. Imagine saying "not wittingly."
Well, that was his cover. I mean, remarkably, statement analysis why he said no.
Yeah, which was good,
A
but
blatant lie.
yeah.
By the way, this is a lie, guys. This is a
Oh,
lie. This is not a
definitively.
body language lie. Okay, yes, we could say he displays all the deception markers you can imagine. He's on the level of an Amber Heard in this testimony.
Oh yeah.
But has anyone heard of Edward Snowden? Has anyone heard of WikiLeaks? I mean, but specifically, Edward Snowden is who released. Oh, by the way, here's the millions of records that the NSA is collecting on you every day.
Wow.
And that ties us to Mike Pompeo. And Mike Pompeo was very upset because, well, Edward Snowden proved that Clapper's lying.
So, but yeah, I mean, and of course, it's really difficult. But like I said, the simplest version is a lot of it is outsourced to, and it's all done within the same building, but by a different company. So you will have a section of the building which is outsourced to a contractor, and the contractor will do all the harvesting of all the information. And then the NSA will say, we need this, and this. And I'll go, yeah, sure, there you go. And so it's kind of funneled through these kind of private intelligence companies.
It's laundered.
That's probably the best analogy of it. And then the NSA gets to pick what they want. So they can directly turn around and say, well, we don't do it.
Not wittingly.
So but if I hire you to go down the cookie shop and steal 5 donuts, and then I say, oh, I'll just have that one, thank you, Eric. And then if somebody turns around and said to me, well, do you go down the road and steal 5 donuts from the cookie shop? I go, well, no, not me.
Well, that's kind of like if you not wittingly, were sleeping with your office mate and you got caught for it and you hired somebody, and then let's say they took out your wife. Well, you didn't do it.
Exactly. So
I didn't kill her.
Yep, and this is how they get around it, by putting like this kind of third party in. But like you say, going back to if you did hire a hitman to kill your wife, how much are they these days? Can somebody give me a quote? No, I'm just kidding. But if you did, we'd still be accountable to the law. The general public would still be accountable to the law within the what's it called? Conspiracy to kill, is that what they call it these days?
But then there's depending on what it is, because there's conspiracy charge, to kill, obviously, but then there's also like RICO, which goes into racketeering, which is what I think a lot of governments do.
More organized crime and that. So but this is pretty much the same thing. Hiring somebody else to do it, and then you just taking what you want from that. Here we go. I wouldn't really want to kill you much. No, she'll kill me later now. That's it.
There's a box behind you. I wonder if you'll be packed in it.
Yeah, more than likely. If I disappear now, you know what's happened.
I know nothing.
So, but this is the way. I mean, the CIA's plausible deniability is their history. Of everything they've ever done. It's always been a case of complete deniability in every area. You get somebody else to do it. And you say, look, this is what I'd like to happen, and I don't want to know how. You just hire somebody to do that job. It's what's kept people like me employed for many, many years in different parts of the world, by getting hired by people like station chiefs and that kind of thing. And they'll outsource a job, and it might be something like, look, we need you to do this. And you go, okay, do you want to know the details? No, we want to know nothing. Just see if you can make it happen. So, oh yes, that box has been closed. All being used.
Yeah. It was nice. I need to get you recorded on this one. I don't know if you're going to have a show tonight, Gavin, because you're not be alive. But...
That's it, yeah. I've got to make a quick call to cancel the life insurance first, but
Oh, there you go. All right. Well, while we're here, because we wanted to have a short clip, Gavin's got a show coming up here soon. Anybody have any questions in the chat?
Mm-hmm.
And Gavin brought up a good point about the contractors. Guess what? Edward Snowden was a contractor.
Mm-hmm. He was, yeah.
Who worked under the NSA on contract, etc. Is there any more of the Clapper tape? No, that was the full clip that I have. The one exchange between this congressman. I don't have the entire testimony of the day. This is the, this is the famous one. The behavior panel. has shown that in some of their training, or at least Scott and Greg. I mean, come on.
Mhm.
The guy's just, mauling his head.
Yeah. So, I mean, to summarize for you, just so that we can put it into perspective, he's doing what we call lying by omission. So, it's not that he's directly telling an out and out porky, apart from when he turned around and said, no, we don't. But he's leaving out.
You can almost say,
how
no,
it works.
we don't.
Yeah. So, and that's how they managed to get around it by not giving you all the details.
Yeah, so you have to tell us about your work sometime there. But until then, anybody have questions in the chat?
Yeah,
I figured
any
it'll be
questions on
lighting
this?
up right now. And I'm also wanting to know, oh, here we go. Pasha is always good for a question.
Hey.
Question, it seems like legal action could be brought against Clapper, but I assume we don't think anything actually will happen. Are there any circumstances when that could happen? They tried.
Yeah, it won't. There are too many layers of security between him and what's happening. He's so far up the pyramid that he can say, well, I don't directly deal with that. I get somebody to oversee that. And he's oversees somebody who hires somebody who and by the time you've watered it down that much, there'd be no charges being able to be directly linked to him in a way that would result in any kind of criminal proceedings.
Oh, I'm going to plug here.
Mhm.
Gavin's book has a whole section on lying
Hey.
and the types of lying. The entire book's about lying.
Yep, there you go. So, and it's not like the history of the CIA is that of transparency, is it really?
No.
I know all through like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, I think it was, they turned around and said, no, we don't test LSD on people. We don't force people. We don't torture people. We do nothing about that. And then in what year was it that MK Ultra was declassified?
53.
When it was declassified? Was it?
Well, coincidentally, on America's Untold Stories this week, we covered Dr. Sidney Gottlieb.
Oh, yeah.
Who was the poisoner in chief for the CIA, and MK Ultra ran from 53 to around, I don't know, 63 or something. In 1973, Gottlieb burned all the papers. But one thing good about a bureaucracy is that he didn't have everything. So they actually found John Marks, who wrote the book, The Search for the Manchurian Candidate, dug up and found expense reports. Oops. And those expense reports could be used to extrapolate what was going on. And then Gottlieb got brought into the Senate, I think it was in 77. And nothing really, he wasn't hit that hard or anything else. But
yeah. So the issue with MK Ultra is, and most people know about MK Ultra, but there's 149 sub projects that came from MK Ultra, and from that, each of those, or not each of them, but some of them also had sub projects which were ongoing. Some of them are still ongoing today.
Yeah, we have Project Midnight Climax, which is a fun one, like where they okay. Let's get salacious because we want to get
why not?
Project Midnight Climax is a fun one. This one, they had a bordello that they set up, and they had the prostitutes in there, and they dosed the Johns with LSD. And then they had this guy who was literally sitting on the toilet watching through the wall. How's this work? This LSD thing with the Johns and the prostitutes. I wonder what they talk about. I wonder what happens. So that was an example of it. All of this came out of Operation Paperclip. Operation Paperclip was named after the files that were noted of really problematic people that they had to slide through, that were marked by paper clips that were kind of holding them together. Now, these people were like Kurt Blom, who ran well, the biowarfare thing in Germany, and well, he was an expert on things like sarin gas,
Great choice of words.
and he could lecture with knowledge and say that, well, age isn't relevant in the death rate. And how would you know that? How would you know that age doesn't really matter on how quickly they die? How would a German scientist know that? But don't feel bad, because we also got Shiro Ishii out of Japan, who worked in China, and well, they spread the plague. They did different things. They did frostbite. Let's just say that all kinds of fun things occurred, and there's a love affair with all of this.
Oh yeah, definitely. And there's so much more. Like I said, there's ongoing projects, there's sub projects, there's operations, there's things that are still relevant. And there was even an Overwatch, I think. So you got MK Delta was basically the put in place to overlook the results of the use of the products made by MK Ultra abroad. So this wasn't just happening in America. This was going out to foreign countries, and it was MK Delta's job to overlook and oversee what and where it happened. So for anybody who doesn't know what we're going on about here, so MK is a cryptonym, and it's the name of what the diagraph is, and so it's the two letters at the beginning of an operation name. And what they are, they're usually a geographical location or a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a functional area. So hypothetically, LN Harp is actually the US government. And then you got GP Floor was Lee Harvey Oswald. So you got lots of different things like that. So you got your two letters, or your geographical location, or your functional department, or that kind of thing. And then your operation name is then picked from a sterile list, and usually nothing to do with the actual operation itself. So that's where where the makeup comes from. And then you'll have a slash at the end. So the person in charge will be number one. So it'll be MK Ultra /1, and that'll be the person in charge. Then he hires 3 people, and there'll be /3, 4, and 5, and so on and so forth. So, and that's how it all works. Everybody has the corresponding number. So that's what that is.
All right. Ziggy has a good question here, and yes, I see the chat. Everybody's arguing. Put up the answer. Okay. Anyway, Gavin, is there a better way to ask a question and get better answers? That's actually could be answered different ways. So I'm going to speak to it a little bit here too.
Go for it.
In the case of here, because it depends on your circumstances and what you are doing. If you want to get a specific answer, because honestly, when you got a congressional thing like this, you're kind of shooting for a confession.
Yeah.
So this is more of a cross-examination type of situation. You have a limited time, and you have to narrow things down. And the illustrious Jim Pyle here, who wrote a book on how to get questions, so he knows more than all of us. It's simple: by keeping the question a single subject, require a narrative response using basic interrogations instead of "do you," "did you," which only gets a yes or no. That's perfect. Unfortunately, that's for a congressman when they're in there, because again, 5 minutes, you got 5 minutes, get the answer. And I would actually argue that the last question he asked,
that was the best one out of the lot.
Well, in my opinion, should have been his first question.
Yeah.
Because then I would have asked it again and again, because again, we're talking about a political theater here in a lot of ways, where you're trying to push a point or a narrative because you're going to vote for or against something. And a lot of times these witnesses are props. And the only purpose, like in a courtroom, in a cross-examination, why is it the lawyer for the witness, like the one who's on the witness's side, asks open-ended questions. So why did you go to the store? And then I went, I had to get milk, I had to do this and that, had to get groceries. Okay. And did you see anything while you were there? Cross-examination would be, so you went to the store at 8 p.m.? You claim you bought groceries. And it's very, very, very pointed. So I think that's
Yeah.
Gavin, you were asked that. What is your thought?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he asked the question at the end that he probably should have asked at the beginning in this circumstance. So obviously, your question will change depending on what you want to know and what you want to find out. But yeah. Yep. Jim's the master at this. He knows it. When it comes to interrogation, get the book. And he's got on a good conversation codex, and his new book's coming out soon as well with body language.
Yeah, hopefully having Jim back if he has the patience.
Brilliant. Fantastic.
Jim, would you also hearings? Would you agree? Also, trials are the same thing. Because the discovery happens beforehand. A trial is a combative situation. In my opinion, a trial is also theater.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah. So, but yeah, the direct way would have been favorite in that instance. Just yes or no. Are you doing X? And that's where I would have gone with it. And like what you said there, Eric, I'd have kept repeating the question. If he'd have turned around and said, well, let me tell you what the laws are, I say, I don't want to know what the laws are. I want to know what you're doing. Is it yes or no? Do you do X? And that's where I would have continued with that kind of thing.
Yeah. When he did that, it would be like, typically he would say, the law is kind of like Stossel actually did. Mm-hmm. The law is this. Do you follow that? But he didn't really do it. He was like, is there anything in his questions are really, really weak.
Yeah, really wishy-washy, very evasive, very nebulous. And he was giving you answers, but not the answer to the question.
Let me see. We got a question here from Bob Dennison. Please speak to Prism, the pre-2001 backdoor software the Israeli Mossad used.
Yeah. So that comes from Narus, which was originally a Israeli company. They supply the NSA. They were bought out by Boeing. I can't remember when. I can't remember the year, but basically Boeing owned Narus. Narus supplied the software for the NSA, and they're the ones who are doing or basically given the means to the for Prism to be able to happen, as it were. So yeah, it was before 2001. It was before 9/11, and they were doing a lot of this prior to the Twin Towers attack, and of course it was after that there was a lot of the intelligence industry was under a microscope, as it were, and there was a lot of changes and rules put into place. So, but again, Boeing is a major governmental contractor. Everybody thinks of them as doing the airplanes, but they're highly involved with a lot of U.S. government contracts in many areas, both military and over here in the UK as well, intelligence. So.
What's interesting too is there's a commercial side, and I haven't really read up on it a lot, but Boeing and Airbus are at war with each other with commercial espionage, like leaking plans, leaking things like that. Have you read any of that or seen any of that?
I don't know too much about it, but I know they are all at it. All the big companies, whether it's Northrop Grumman, whether it's Boeing, whether it's Honeywell, they're all trying to kind of get in with each other and know what the other one's doing and spy on each other. So.
Yeah, I mean, it totally makes sense. And we're going to be wrapping up soon. Gavin has another show coming on his channel, and I'm really hoping that everyone follows him over. This is actually on YouTube this week and not Facebook, so it's not in the hinterlands. What are you talking about today?
So I'm with the co-hosts Robin Dreek and Lena Sisko. I'm sure you all know them. If you don't, then Lena Sisko is former naval intelligence. Robin Dreek is a former FBI counterintelligence spy recruiter. brilliant, guys. We're going to go on and talk about mastery. He's just read a book by Robert Greene called Mastery. We're gonna basically put it through its paces and be able to kind of comment.
48 Laws of Power guy.
That's the one, same guy. That book, The 48 Laws of Power, was very, very kind of, it's
Machiavellian.
yeah. But this book apparently is a little bit different. It's from a different angle. So we're going to talk about that and how it can be applied for people in their lives to be able to take, to become masters of anything or any area.
Trivia for you. Did you know that 48 Laws of Power is banned in prisons?
Is it? Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Surprise me.
it's like a Bible. He's huge in the hip hop community as well. But 48 Laws of Power is powerful stuff. So
I've got, thanks to it was Brian that sent me that over on audiobook. Actually, I've been meaning to have it on playing on the background. It's been I read the original long time ago, but I need to brush up.
all right, well, sounds wonderful. Now, folks, please consider going over there. I have a redirect setup, so you don't have to do anything. You just hang out right here. It'll say, hey, all the cool people are going over to Gavin's show, and you can head right over there with them, check out what's going on there, and give him a sub. He's getting close to the 1,000 mark.
Nearly there.
It really will help a lot because that opens up all kinds of doors, more communication. It allows him to get monetized, maybe make a few dollars here and there. And feel free, of course, to subscribe here.
Of course.
While you're here. I always love to have you and see you. And I will see you in the next video.